This is Proscriptor McGovern from Absu, and I am blowing it up on Capital Chaos TV.
You are number 666.
It's very deep stuff. So I guess you do a lot of reading and studying. And
Yes, that's correct.
I wanted to ask you about this particular lineup because I think you guys are going on about 8 years with this core 3 guys or whatever. And prior to that, at least in your first incarnation, you had a lot of lineup changes or whatever. So is there any keys that you just found the right guys to work with on this group that you guys have been together for 8 years? And
one difficult aspect about Absu's lineup in the past, it's been very meticulous to find other members that are on the same mental planes and plateaus as myself, residing in Dallas, Texas. And with the latest lineup that has been coagulated in the past 8 months with Izizu and Vishkin, it's been the strongest yet most stalwart lineup in Absu's history, being in existence of 25 years. So it's been a long, grueling 25 years, but with this lineup, I am definitely most satisfied with this particular trio.
okay, well, you kind of answered. I was going to ask, compare and contrast, I guess, how do you refer to it of the first 13 years of Absu, and then you had a 4 or 5 year break there, and then you've had the second lineup. So
it is two totally different bands. The original lineup with myself, Shaftil and Equitant, we have been perpetual comrades for a very long time and still are to this day, but people walk and meander down different pathways, and it's always prosperous for a change. So I decided to carry on and still have the utmost respect for the original lineup, but like I mentioned earlier, it's always prosperous for the soul and energy-wise to travel down different pathways.
I wanted to ask you about musically. You spoke lyrically about some themes or whatever, but maybe musically, at least inspirational or influences back, could be 70s, 80s, that influenced you and kind of drove you to what you're doing. Bands in particular?
Not 80s Teutonic thrash from Germany has always been a key element as inspiration to Absu. But me, on a personal level, I am an immense fan of 60s psychedelic music, and especially 70s progressive rock and jazz fusion, which I personally consider to incorporate in the percussive execution behind Absu's music. So there are a lot of elements that formulate our style of mythological occult metal, and I think we stand out a little bit separate from the norm all across the globe.
Is there any particular black metal band or entities that maybe, you mentioned a lot of bands that aren't directly influenced into black metal, which it's not your whole thing, but that's a little part of what you do, right? So is there anything that influenced you on that side, European or otherwise?
Too extensive of a question to answer. I'm still an immense fan of, more of an immense fan of the second wave of black metal, which exploded in the early portion of the 90s. But as far as today, I travel down my own trail of inspirations and influences. So to answer your question, still a fan of Black Death, thrash, but
were you a fan of Norwegian black metal, the classic band?
Some of it.
Or the second generation?
Enslaved, Eternus, Dark Throne, Vedboin Zende, Aranor. Those are probably my top most choice bands from the Norwegian territory.
Another question I had is, how old were you when you started playing drums? Pretty young? Or?
7.
And right away, is there any even bands back then when you were 7? Was it still like 60s, 70s stuff?
Yes, yes. King Crimson, Genesis, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Yeah, definitely.
Probably been asked this a million times. What was it like? You auditioned for Slayer at one point, right? About 12 years ago or something?
Well, it was a easy opportunity because when they were holding auditions in 2002, there were only 3 select cities across the U.S. Those 3 cities were San Francisco, Peoria, Illinois, and Dallas, Texas. Residing in Dallas, Texas, it was an opportunity I couldn't pass up, even if I made the cut into Slayer. It was just a good opportunity and something I can narrate to all the people.
Were the guys there when you auditioned?
No, just Gary King.
Gary King, all right. Drummer, I'm going to ask you about gear, if you care to talk about any gear or
Sure.
anything else that you talk about or play?
I'm currently endorsed by Trick Pedals, Ahead Sticks, and TRX cymbals. As far as shells, I have a hybrid kit of several manufacturers, so those are my weapons of choice.
All right. Anything else touring wise? Are you guys, when you get off this tour, you're going to just go back and
Complete the album.
Complete the album.
We have some select festival dates that we will fulfill in the remainder of 2016. So once this tour has been officially completed, then the number one priority is to complete the next album, which is called Absu, APSU.
And that'll be November 2016.
That is correct.
All right. Well, I just want to say thank you. It's an honor to meet with you. And as far as I'm concerned, like for American, I know it's mythical occult metal, but I would say American black metal, you guys are like the greatest. So appreciate the time, man. And anything else you want to say to Capital Chaos TV?
Hey, thank you again for this interview, and never blow out the Eastern Candle. Always.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You are number 666.